We still have the February 22nd fight, ladies and gentlemen. The Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, undisputed light heavyweight 2 fight. And most importantly, more talk. So guys, here's a second topic I like to talk about. It's really interesting. Artur Beterbiev, Dimitri Bivol put themselves together. They put in a light of competition after competition. And what makes this really interesting is that you throw yourself right into to a difficult situation here. Because guys, as for the light heavyweight champion, and I'm just going to look up light heavyweight as we speak, the light heavyweight division in boxing has brought a lot of amazement. Because Archie Moore, a young mongoose back in the 1940s and 50s and his 60s, when he was a famous boxer back then, known as the Old Mongoose, had a record of 9 successful title defenses, an amazement of 9 years, 4 months, and 24 days holding on to the undisputed title. Now, of course, that record almost got broken by a guy that was retaining the WBO back in the early 90s when the WBO was still not a legit belt, by a guy named Dariusz Mikołajewski, a guy that had a 48-0 record, lost by split decision in his country, and then lost another fight a year and a half later by knockout, ended his career, and he retained out that WBO belt 23 successful times, a world record, and almost undefeated 50-0, almost. He held it for 9 years, 1 month, and 8 days, and now Artur Beterbiev, he's hold the third record for the longest reigns in light heavyweight at 7 years, 2 months, 4 weeks, and 2 days. But here's the thing. He has only made a successful of title defenses for barely a while now. Like his win against Enrico Colling back in 2017 during the final seconds of the 12th and final round when he knocked down his opponent twice and won the fight by knockout was amazing. He defeats guys like Callum Johnson and another guy named Rado Kaujzik, the guy that lost against David Morrell last August, as I said before. That's his second title defense. Then he wins the WBC belt against Alexander Golovkin. Gvozdyk, another guy that lost against David Benavidez as well the same year. And also, when did he win the, I don't know if he, did he win the IBF? Oh, no. By 2021, he comes back, defends a couple more times with Marcus Brown and Adam Dine, so that's his fifth title defense. And then his sixth title defense was for the IBF belt and defeated Joe Smith Jr., Anthony Yard in 2023, 2024 Callum Smith, and now Dimitri Bivol 9 times. So he's actually, and of course that was the IBO and the WBA belt. Amazing. So technically Artur Beterbiev has defended the belt 9 times right now. The only time we've ever had 10 successful title defenses were guys like Victor Gaudes from Argentinian, and he actually became a great Latino boxer back in the early days in the 70s when he retained out the WBO belt barely 10 times in his career, which was amazing. During, even though he defended that WBA belt since 3 years and 9 months, he still had 10 successful defenses. Or even Michael Spinks, when he actually became undisputed champion in the light heavyweight and his 10th title defense to become undisputed. And then he went to the heavyweight to defeat Larry Holmes twice, and then those other lame fights with Jerry Cooney, Blob, and Tyson ended his career. Virgil Hill, another guy that made 10 successful title defenses. Roy Jones Jr., 4th. Bob Foster, that's one guy that some people would remember if you heard about how he had some, technically interesting fights against Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, but failed. And also, here's another guy that had, from the country of Hungarian, named Zsolt Erdei. Interesting name. Another guy that defended the belt 11 times. Man, Bob Foster had 14 times. Man, 11 times for Roy Jones Jr. That's 4, 5, 6. The 7th title defense, the 7th person to have to retain the belt was Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, he defended 12 times, but 9 more. Should have been 13. 8 was that WBO guy from Germany. Yep. So technically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 people have successfully defended the belt 10 times or more. So this is going to be an interesting thing is Dmitry Bivol going to become a 2-time champion and also be an undisputed champion? Or is Artur Beterbiev, a guy that's in his 40s right now, not in his prime anymore, gonna get his 10th successful title defense? Now, guys, at 40 years old, Artur Beterbiev, in my opinion, has nothing to gain for. He's not in his prime anymore than I think, so at this moment, his career might be done if he loses his fight. But if he actually successfully defends it, this will be the 9th boxer in history to defend the belt 10 times in light heavyweight history. So we're looking at 2 histories here. Are we going to see a Russian guy from Montreal, Quebec, Canada? Also, nationality is Canada, even though he's born in Russia. Or are we going to see a born Russian, actually formerly born in Kyrgyzstan, but living in Indio, California, actually become undisputed light heavyweight champion? Well, who knows? And guys, I love that in BoxRec they had David Benavidez at number 2 and Bivol at number 3. Because, yeah, like at this moment, David Benavidez picked up that win, as we just talked about in my last podcast with the Daniel Perkins and Claressa Shields, how he managed to barely squeak out, getting knocked out by Morrell, and then that penalty, that, how controversial that was, and then wins the fight, becomes 2-time undisputed, 2-time weight class champion. And even though Benavidez is 28 years old, yeah, I can almost see a fight against him and Beterbiev. Here's the thing, guys. This is some information I had a few months ago, I think it was a month ago. It stated that even if Benavidez did defeat David Morrell, which he did, and if Bivol defeats Artur Beterbiev, and they're going to have a trilogy fight maybe a few months from now, Benavidez is just going to say, screw it, I'm going to cruiserweight. But after he squeaked out a couple great wins against Alexander Gvozdyk and David Morrell in light heavyweight, to be honest, I would say, though, that at this moment, I don't know if this is going to be possible, because at this moment, I'm like, well, in my opinion, Artur Beterbiev is 40 years old. Even if he does win this rematch fight, I don't think it's going to be possible for him to take on David Benavidez, because Benavidez is 12 years old, younger than Artur Beterbiev. He's 28, Artur is 40, and even Bivol's 34 years old, and David Morrell is 27. So who knows? Also, Morrell is number 5 in the ranks right now, while we have a British boxer named Joshua Buatsi that's 19-0, 31 years old, and he's the WBO interim world light heavyweight champion. And he also has a fight against Callum Smith in Saudi Arabia, the same venue where we'll have the undisputed clash against Beterbiev and Bivol. And Joshua Buatsi also has his own stuff, because he's rated number 4, and at this moment, he's 19-0. If he does win this fight against Callum Smith, a guy that's already failed out a couple bad fights already, well, I would just say good luck, because that might bring him a good chance as well to make it big again. So Joshua Buatsi, if he goes 20-0, it's possible I could see an interesting fight with him, and maybe Artur Beterbiev as well. He is a young kid as well, so let's try to give him a chance. Don't get me wrong, Joshua Buatsi, yes, he's 31 years old, born in Ghana, but living in the UK, but I don't think that's going to hurt. It might be a good success. So, and as I said before, I talked about the DeBlanc Parker fight and Ajit Cabello and Zhang fight. It's going to be interesting of how those fights happen. Know what's going to happen for Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson. That's going to be an interesting fight. And even Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Israel Madrimov. Well, that's going to be something interesting to talk about. And also Carlos Adams and Hamza Shiraz. And guys, I don't want to talk much about this entire card, because I have talked about it in episodes, but we'll see what happens in the future as we speak. But it's going to be interesting where you see some punching going on here, but when you look at it from a perspective point, it might give us something to look at. So let's try to focus on what's going to happen after this show happens. But the light heavyweight might get some good buzz.